welcome to today's video blog. For today's video blog, I thought I would do a another what to watch during Droughtlander, because it's been a while, and I did one for last year's Droughtlander, and in case you don't know, Droughtlander is that interminable space of waiting between Outlander seasons. So during that interminable wait, we gotta fill that space with something new to watch that'll carry us over until Outlander returns. I heard in hopefully early 2020, but 2020. Ain't no, like, Droughtlander is long enough, but if anybody knows about waiting between shows, it's fans of the show I'm going to talk about today, Game of Thrones. That is our what to watch during Droughtlander pick for today. Game of Thrones, which I'm going to try and do like the beginning of this non-spoilery, but then I'm going to sort of veer into my thoughts on Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones, the entire series has completed. It was 8 seasons long, and the final series wrapped, I think, this past May. I think May was the last month, and my sister had caught up earlier than I had, and so I was sort of binging it with her. And if you're subscribed here to my channel, you can see that apparently I'm entertaining when shows are ripping my heart out. So she taped me, she recorded me reacting to, from I think season 5, like halfway into season 5, that's when she started recording me. So we have videos up for season 5, season 6, season 7, and I'm just waiting for her to finish sending me the clips for season 8, and then we'll have that up here for you. So Game of Thrones, in case you didn't know, is a fantasy, historical fantasy series where there's all these warring kingdoms, and they're all basically fighting over a chair. A fugly ass chair called the Iron Throne. This chair, y'all, causes so much death and betrayal and crap that I just, like, I'm glad what happens to the chair in the end of season 8 happens to the chair. That's the perfect ending for that chair. But let's back up. So Game of Thrones is a series based on a book series written by George R.R. Martin, who, like our darling Diana Gabaldon, likes big books, and he cannot lie. I mean, he writes big ass, like, huge fantasy books. And it's these 7 kingdoms, and they're all like, oh, I have the rightful claim to the throne, I have the rightful claim to the throne, blah, 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 and war. Up in the north, we have the Starks, which, for a lot of people, they're the favorite family of the entire series. It's the Starks, helmed by Sean Bean. Now, I don't have to tell you what happens to Sean Bean. If you followed Sean Bean in 90% of any project he's worked in, you know what happens to Sean Bean. That's not a spoiler, but I'm just not going to say what happens to Sean Bean. But if you know Sean Bean, you know what happens to Sean Bean. So he's the head of the family, and he's married to Catelyn Tully. And they're the matriarch and patriarch, and they have 5-ish sons. There's Robb Stark, played by the ridiculously beautiful Richard Madden. There's Sophie Turner, Mrs. Jonas now, who plays Sansa. Arya Stark, who is our little itty bitty badass, played by Maisie Williams. Brandon Stark, what is it? Isaac Hempstead Wright? Baby Rickon, who was born with a defect in that he is unable to zigzag. And we'll talk about that later. So yeah, there's Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran, Rickon. And then the ish part is our darling floofy-haired cupcake, Jon Snow. And I say ish because Jon Snow is a bastard, in that Ned went off to war one year and came back with a little present. So Catelyn's not overly fond of Jon, and I get it in the sense that, like, putting yourself in Catelyn's shoes, if your husband went, like, a lot of people give Cat grief, but if your husband went off and came back with a son that you didn't push out of your body, it would be hard for you to have that son around as a constant reminder that your husband was unfaithful. So, I get it. However, she, like, apparently in the books, she's way worse. I haven't read the books because I tried reading the books and they're just too, I don't know, they're too dense for me. And this is coming from an Outlander fan. Yeah, they're too heavy. Now, in my opinion, she should have been mad at Ned, not take her anger out on Jon. Because Jon, poor little cupcake, all he did was be born. Like, he's not to blame for anything. Ned is the one who went off and did the dirty and came back with the son. So, those are the Starks. Then we have the Lannisters. If you enjoy Flowers in the Attic, you'll be okay with some of the things the Lannisters get up to. There is Tywin, who's the patriarch, and Tywin has 3 kids. Tywin has a daughter named Cersei, a son named Jaime, and a son named Tyrion. Now, Cersei and Jaime are twins. Cersei and Jaime love each other a lot. Like, Cersei and Jaime love each other like Kathy and Chris loved each other in Flowers of the Attic. There be stupping up in here. Listen, fictional incest does not bother me. In real life, if I knew these people, I would be like, y'all need therapy. Ew. However, fictional incest does not bother me. I am a proud member of the VC Andrews Club. So, my issues with Cersei and Jaime are not the incest. My issues with Cersei and Jaime are the power-hungry killing and scheming and all that lot. Now, Cersei's married to King Robert, who is best friends with Ned Stark. So the hand of the Robert is the king, and his hand gets murdered mysteriously. And so Robert decides he's gonna need a new hand of the king, which is kind of like the hand of the king is like the assistant. So he decides that he wants Ned to be that hand of the king. And Ned is like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to be hand of the king. But you're my best friend, so BFF goals. So stuff happens because King Robert ends up dying, and he has 3 children with Cersei, and he has 3-ish. He has 3 children with Cersei. Let me just say it like that. And the oldest, Joffrey, is not a nice boy. He's a little cuckoo-magoo in la cabeza. Not in the sense that he's insane, but in the sense that he's insane cruelty-wise. So Joffrey does a lot of crap. And Robert decides that along with Ned being named his hand, he thinks that they should join their houses in that Joffrey should marry Ned's daughter Sansa. This poor girl. This poor girl goes through some stuff. And in the beginning, she's this spoiled-ish, not very, likable girl. I mean, her sister Arya is the little fighter badass, who, she wants to grow up and she wants to be a soldier, like her brothers are gonna be, and like her dad is, and Sansa wants to get married and be a princess and be queen and is all about that life. And she thinks that Joffrey is going to be the perfect prince, and she's going to live in a castle, and yada yada, and it all goes horribly wrong. And then we have, so those are, and Cersei and Jaime's younger brother? It has to be younger because their mother died birthing him. Tyrion, who was born a dwarf. Tyrion is just, if you ask anybody on Game of Thrones who their favorite character is, next to whoever else they name, Tyrion will be on that list. Because Tyrion, he's intelligent, he's snarky, he's funny, he is everything. Peter Dinklage, what he did with that character was insanely talented. I cannot even. So throughout the whole series, I think above anybody else, everybody would say that Tyrion had to survive. I think there would have been a riot if Tyrion had died. I think the David and Dan, who were the creators and producers and all that jazz, there would have been a riot. They would have. There's a scene where the people are rioting in the streets against Joffrey, and this poor guy gets swarmed by this crowd, and they literally rip him apart. I mean, limbs, and I think that's what would have happened to David and Dan if they'd killed Tyrion. So thankfully that does not happen. Although he does come close many a time. So those are the Lannisters. Then we have the Targaryens, who at this point the only two left are brother and sister Viserys and Daenerys. Daenerys played by the unbelievably gorgeous and talented Emilia Clarke. So they think they have the rightful claim to the throne. So Viserys decides he needs an army, and he's gonna go and he's gonna marry his sister off to these savage horse lord dudes led by Jason Momoa. So Aquaman. So Daenerys, Dany, marries Aquaman, and on her wedding day, she's gifted with 3 dragon eggs. Yes, there be dragons. And of course, this poor itty bit, like, Emilia Clarke is tiny. You put her up against, like, Jason Momoa, and Jason Momoa could carry her in his pocket. Like, just carry her around in, like, his saddlebag. But yes, it's an arranged marriage, it's a forced marriage. But they gradually, like, they start developing feelings for each other, and it's lovely, and it's beautiful, and yeah. So initially, so I think those are the 3. Who am I missing? Targaryens, Starks, Lannisters. There's the Dornish people that come in, like, later. But I think, like, those are, like, I think the main 3. So they're all fighting for this damn chair. Well, to be fair, the Starks don't really give a crap about the chair. They just want to stay in the north. But they get dragged into the fight because of Robert, King Robert. So that happens. But for the main showdown fight is between the Targaryens and the Lannisters. Now, I saw an episode, or I saw, like, a bit of an episode years ago, and then, like, something happened, and I thought that was, like, the first episode, but no, it was episode 9 of season 1 where this thing happened. So I initially was interested in watching the show, and then that thing happened in episode 9 of season 1, and I was like, nope, I'm out. Nope, I don't want to watch it if things are going to happen to my favorite characters. So I gave up on it, and, like, and I kept hearing about, like, how it was so violent, and it was misogynistic, and it was this and that and the other. Is it violent? Yes. Yes, it's violent, but not, except for, like, 1 or 2 instances, and I think they all involve the Mountain, because the Mountain, the Lannisters have this guy working for them who's sort of like he's kind of like a guard, one of the guards, and he's called the Hound, and the Hound has a brother named the Mountain, and the Mountain is just this evil, like, monster guy who, like, likes to rip people apart, and yeah, I think any, like, obscenely, like, this is too much violence, I think only happened, like, those in scenes with, like, the Mountain. Anything else, it's sort of like, HBO, like any like really like cable network. It's nothing that like you really haven't seen before in like cable network shows, in my opinion. They're not nice to horses. They're not nice to horses in this show. But you know, again, I'm sure that they had people on set and like the horses were like taken care of and all that jazz. Is it misogynistic? In my opinion, no. No to the hell to the no. Because some of the strongest characters on this show are the women. I mean, Daenerys, who we married off to Jason Momoa so that her brother could have his army, starts off as, yes, this sort of quiet, shy little girl who is afraid, of course, to be married to this giant. But she, like, seriously comes into her own. Like, things happen, and she takes charge, and she becomes a queen, and just, or a Khaleesi, I guess, of their tribe, and she is fighting to become queen of that chair because she believes that they have the rightful claim, that she has the rightful claim, because King Robert, there was a war between the Robert Baratheon, which is King Robert's last name, and so the Baratheons and the Targaryens, and the Baratheons won that war, and so Dany believes that she has the rightful claim to that throne, because Robert rebelled and stole the throne away from her family. So her arc is she's trying to reclaim her family's birthright. And it's just beautiful watching her become this strong, amazing woman. And then you have Cersei, who at least for me, she was one of those, I hate you, but I love you, but I hate you, but I love you, but I hate you. And it's just, everything she did. There's a line in season 8 where Jaime is trying to justify some things that he had done. Jaime does some things. And he says something, everything I did for my house and my family. I'd do it all again. And Cersei is exactly like that. Not to say that Cersei makes the right decisions, and the Lannisters are obsessed with power, and Cersei wants to keep that power, and they have all these enemies, and so Cersei is sort of a strike first and ask questions later. And like if you come for her, she will come back, and she will come back like 10 times harder to make sure that you never think of coming for her again. So Cersei does some terrible things. Awful, awful things. And then we have, but again, like, she's this incredibly strong woman, and we have Sansa, and Arya, who become very strong in completely different ways. I mean, Arya, even from like childhood, is like this little badass who, like, she fires arrows and she fights and she She likes swords, and she's like this badass character. Sansa starts off, yes, very dainty, and she likes pretty things, and she wants to be princess, and she's very like selfish and spoiled, and not because her parents spoil her, because Ned and Catelyn, like they're good parents, they're wonderful parents, and Catelyn has might have like some issues with Jon, but not condoning them, but they're understandable. So Sansa's just sort of, that's just the way she is. And Sansa goes through some things, and she becomes this incredibly strong woman. So I don't understand there's people who they write these like reams and reams of essays and pages about the misogyny on the show, and I'm like, what show are you watching? Like, everything that I've seen of this show, I mean, like, I'm caught up. I've seen all of it. Have shown me these incredibly strong women. I mean, like Arya, yeah, she's like this little badass when she's grown, but she stays and she becomes even more of like a fighter and a badass as she grows. And all of these women, I mean, just I don't get it. I don't see the misogyny like at all. So that, yeah, I'm gonna try and like not be. So that was, I think, just, I'm trying to see if like there's anything else non-spoilery I want to talk about. Yeah, so just it's an amazing like historical fantasy show, and a lot of people will say if you like Outlander, you'll like Game of Thrones. They're not the same. They're not. But they have that same sort of like epic feel kind of thing. And there's romance, there's sex, there's big sweeping beautiful scores, there's strong women, there's strong men, there's villains. Oh, there's villains. Oh my good gracious. So yeah, I would most definitely recommend it. Now, from this point on, there will be spoilers. So if you want, like, we're at 28 minutes, that's a good sort of, I think, overview of the show. Now I'm just gonna sort of talk about my thoughts on the show as a whole, and now that I have completed it.